the drive for creating art needs to come from inside. You can't get that externally.
You're listening to Art Heroes Podcast, the show to help you thrive as a digital artist. Tune in to learn how to transform your passion into a career. Get inspired by other kick-ass 2D and 3D artists, and find out what it takes to be an art hero.
Christian, welcome to Art Heroes Podcast, and thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you guys for tuning in. And welcome to this week's episode. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Maria. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going really well, and really excited to have you. A little bit of a backstory. We've been stalking you for a while on ArtStation, myself and my team, and I was like, okay, it's time to reach out because we really want to talk a little bit more in depth about hard surface and architecture, and let's see if Christian will be up for a chat.
Yeah, no, happy.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, come in. I'm like, amazing, that's great.
Easy for me.
Easy. Perfect. So you're currently in Seattle?
Yeah, I'm currently here in Seattle,
Awesome.
in the United States. It's gloomy out tonight.
Awesome. I've got a few questions prepared for you. I actually wanted to maybe start with your story. Can you share what was like the key basic milestones of your journey and how you got into it? What was before you do currently, and just like a little bit of an intro.
All right. Well, getting into art, I would probably say that I started super young, like most artists. I started when I was a toddler. I started working with Legos and working with clay, and like any type of sculpting was kind of my thing. But as far as professionally and kind of what threw me there, it started again pretty early in middle school. I had a friend of mine that mentioned that he wanted to be a 3D animator and work for Pixar. And at the time, I had just immigrated into the United States, and I didn't really have those ideas in my head that you could do art as a living, as a career. My mother kind of wanted to push me into architecture, and I thought, well, okay, well, maybe I can do this 3D art thing, because I found the Pixar movies very inspiring. It was one of the first movies I watched when I moved to the States, Toy Story. And
yes.
I was kind of blown away by just all the beauty of that film. And sure enough, I went ahead and started studying 3D Studio Max on my off time. There was one class in high school that was mostly vocational and kind of focused on architecture, which was perfect. My mother wanted me to do architecture. So I was like, okay, well, this class happens to have 3D Studio Max and they'll teach me Max. So I was like, okay, well, I went in there. Unfortunately, the instructors didn't really know how to use 3D Studio Max. So it was part of the curriculum, but it was, this was some time ago, like 1999, 2000, early in kind of 3D space. I basically picked up a book and started learning Max back then. And as I went along, I studied both architecture and 3D animation, I guess is what they used to call it. And luckily, my university had a program called Virtual Technology and Design, where we did both, some sort of design influence, whether it's art or architecture, and then some sort of 3D involvement in there. And so I was able to follow both paths of architecture and 3D kind of all throughout my educational career. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Wow. So basically, you're one of the rare kinds that studied 3D somehow in the university as a part of an academic program.
Yeah, that's rare, right?
Yeah, that's super rare. I'm trying to think if I know anyone else who did anything beyond YouTube tutorial.
At the time, there just was no YouTube tutorials,
Exactly. Yeah, how crazy.
We had these tutorials that people would covet, from the Nomon tutorials that people had DVDs and they would we'd be already, that was it.
Cool. So, since this is so rare, let's tap into it for a quick sec.
Yeah.
So, how hard was that to get a job after a formal degree back in the day, or like a gig? I don't know. What was it for you? Like, what was your first gig, basically?
My first gig was doing renderings and illustrations
Right.
uh, for this company called Building God's Way in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So I was doing illustrations and renderings of Christian schools and churches that they were building. And I got that job through the university. So that was kind of my first exposure through it, was a job board at the University of Idaho. Um, and yeah, sure enough, I went out there for an internship during the summer, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing what I was doing, and it kind of followed through with, like, again, 3D and architecture, and it all kind of fit right in. Um, I will say that it was pure chance that I got lucky and ended up doing that, because ultimately I wanted to go to some fancy art school that had been marketed to me when I was in high school. I won't name it, but it's
Fine.
well known to be a bad art school to go to nowadays. They are quite defunct. But at the time, looking at all their flashy marketing, I was very excited to go and learn there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's very rare to go into a university program and then come out employable.
Yes.
And I mean, if I was to talk to somebody right now and give them advice on whether or not to go to the university, I would say it depends on what their goals are.
Right.
Like if they want an experience that's more academic and more well-rounded, then
Yeah.
yes, maybe. But like ultimately, the drive for creating art needs to come from inside. You can't get that externally.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
most people that went through my program did not get jobs working in either industry or otherwise in art, which, everybody has a different path,
Yeah,
but
which
you
is a little bit
kind of,
of a bummer when you invest in your university degree and have certain expectations about that.
you got it. Yeah. It's very, very common. So ideally, I usually say, don't worry about university, worry about your art. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you stay working for the same company after
Uh,
the graduation, after the internship, I mean?
Actually, after that internship, I was like really excited to be doing more of that, because at the time it was very difficult to do architectural renderings. Like everything had to be from scratch, and the rendering engines were somewhat complex. V-Ray was just becoming popular, and people were starting to use that. And luckily for me, I found another job posting on it's a popular website for architectural visualization people called CG Architects.
Yeah.
An architect had posted a job ad there down in Idaho, still in Boise, and they wanted an illustrator to work with them. And so I went down there fully prepared, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be your illustrator. And sure enough, they told me, hey, you haven't graduated school yet. You should probably finish school, but we'll hire you freelance. And I was like, okay, what's freelance? Does that mean I still get money? Because at the time I really kind of needed it. And yeah, they were like, yeah, well, we'll just pay you per project, and we'll send it up to you, do it remotely. And so, yeah, I mean, this was back in 2004 that I was doing the renderings for these people. And these were kind of more, what I would say, artistic.
Yeah.
They were really, really fun doing architectural
Uh-huh.
renderings for this company, mostly log cabins and the like. And I did that all throughout college, and that gave me the ability to build up a solid portfolio, so that when I did graduate from the university, I was able to have something to show, because most of the university kind of curriculum was it was very abstract and focused on learning the tools and learning how to
Right.
design, and
Yeah.
less
Okay.
on
Like more of a
providing
practice.
you.
Yeah. Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
see.
And it's hard to show an employer, hey, I could do you the job, check out all the practice I've done. They kind of
Yeah,
want to
yeah, yeah.
see completed pieces of work.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
portfolio where you are the sole proprietor. Wow. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. So, like, how did the world look like for you? I don't know if you remember. Like, how did you choose in between architecture and 3D? And, like, um, how did you eventually end up on the 3D end of it, not architecture end of it? And
Ah,
yeah.
well, I mean, if I'm honest, I've been wanting to, like, I wanted to be a Pixar animator, like my friend.
Yeah, okay,
Like,
finally.
yeah,
So
that was it.
so how
That's
did
what I
this
wanted
whole
to
thing
do.
work from, from 3D visualization to the, yeah, to that dream part?
Well, I mean, I just kind of kept pursuing 3D art on the side. But at the end of the day, when I graduated college, I had a portfolio of all this architecture work.
Yeah.
And I had no portfolio of any like entertainment or any type of hard surface design or anything like that. I mean, at the time, hard surface design wasn't really even a thing. It was
Yep.
there was two brands of 3D artists. There was you're either an environmental artist or you're a character artist. Those were kind of the two things people did.
Yep.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to do animation, but right now, I mean, there are no jobs anywhere that I can apply to, but there is one job in New York City that's doing architecture. And I mean, I'm done. I'm graduated. I have nowhere to go. At the time, I was kind of estranged from my family. So I was, yeah, kind of by myself. And there was one opportunity in New York. And so I said, okay, I'll put my dream of 3D art and all that on hold. I'll focus on architecture. And sure enough, I mean, the art itself of at the time was really pretty cutting edge, which is funny to think about. But yeah, the 3D art of ArchViz was super fun, and I went off to New York and did it out there for a long time. Um, but uh, but yeah, kind of how I got stuck from there to here. I mean, I stayed in architecture for a solid 13, 14 years,
Wow.
doing
I
renderings
mean,
and
I've
illustrations.
been
Yeah.
I've been trying to say that from the very beginning, but like yeah, like I can't hold it anymore. You definitely look way younger than
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are.
I got really lucky. Yeah, my people think I'm in my 20s, but no, I'm in my mid 30s. Yeah,
God. Okay. I was getting really confused now, it's like error 404 type of situation.
yeah. No, that
When you
happens.
throw in again like this, like, oh, like 12, 13 years. All right, fine. Should
Yeah,
probably,
well,
like share a few tips for other artists, how to be good at your job.
skin
Wow.
tips.
Yeah, wow.
Stay out of the sun forever.
Oh my God.
Live in Seattle, never see the sun again, and your skin's gonna look amazing. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. Okay. So architecture, so many years. I'm still
Yeah,
Arrow
yeah.
404ing. And then like how did you make a jump to hard surface?
Well, that was kind of the big shock, I guess, last year with the coronavirus. Um, you know, the entire time that I was working with my career, I kind of wanted to do this other thing,
Yeah.
whether that was animation or whether it was some sort of a job in the game industry or design or just something that wasn't architecture. And nothing wrong with architecture. It's just
No,
ArchViz
absolutely not. Yeah.
was a big passion of mine for a while, and I did it, and I kind of I don't want to say I maxed out to the extent that I could have, but I feel like it was enough for me. I did enough. I worked on enough things. And I was a little bit bored with it. So I felt like I'm putting in a lot of work at the office and then also putting in a lot of time outside of the office to try to kind of fulfill my artistic needs. Because if you don't have that need, man, I mean, every artist has a need to create. Uh, and uh, and yeah, so that's what I was doing, and it was just too much time. And luckily for me, last year I was laid off from my job during the coronavirus, which was kind of a shocker because I was with the same company for a little over a decade, well, maybe under a decade, almost 10 years with
Yeah.
them.
Okay. But
Um,
still.
and so I thought, well, man, these guys love me. I've been working with them for forever, and always high marks and all that. And then they were like, well, coronavirus, you are the first to go, my friend. And I was thinking, well, this is kind of a shocking situation. But I mean, I lived through, professionally speaking, I lived through the 2008 kind of financial crisis back then. And during that, I mean, that was also a big shock to kind of my career, and everybody was experiencing layoffs and lack of employment and lack of work, and so it felt very similar. And so I thought, well, what is it that I wanted to do? And I mean, I had tried animation, dabbled into it, and spent a few months studying it, and decided, well, it doesn't really make me happier than architecture. It's about the same for me. And then I started thinking, well, what is it that I really like and enjoy? And I've always enjoyed mechanical things, and whether it's cars or spaceships or weapons was a big one. Anything that was mechanical in nature, I was drawn to, and so I love that. And I thought, well, I have no job and I have
Mhm.
time. What am I going to do? And so I decided, well, I'm going to pursue this job, this hard surface. It's been inspiring me for a long time, and so yeah, for the last year and a half, I pretty much just spent working on hard surface art on my spare time. Luckily for me, I had a bunch of funding that I had saved up that was able to kind of kind of help me
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. How crazy. How crazy. So
yeah,
this is the question that's been bugging me also. I'm
yeah.
sure there's a bunch of artists that are listening to us that have, some type of architectural background, just because like the 3D visualization is such a large field. Like, what skills do you find transferable? Like, basically,
From
what
going
are
going
like
from
what yeah,
ArchViz
yeah, exactly, from
to
architecture to hard surface, and just in general, from one field to like more creative. I don't know, like in
mm,
terms of tools, in terms of like how you work, what do you think helped you to get
well,
to hard surface faster?
yeah, no, I think that I think there's definitely some things there that kind of transfer and that go over, but it really depends on what kind of artist you are working in ArchViz. Like if you are only taking models that architects give you and lighting them and rendering them, there is something to be said about tuning your eye to kind of getting good results and knowing what a good result is and having a good eye that's trained for it. But ultimately, if you, well, I mean, the rendering engines are so talented now, they're so powerful that a lot of that work is kind of somewhat automatically done for you. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
less thinking about like what does something look like and comparing it to reference and back and forth. So it really does depend on what kind of artist you are,
Right.
regardless of what the medium you're transitioning from. So whether you're transitioning from traditional art to 3D art, or whether you're transitioning from architecture to what I'm doing now, which is hard surface. Um, the skills that you have originally will transfer over, but those skills really vary because not every ArchViz guy is the same. Not every hard surface
Yeah.
artist is the same. But I would say if you are taking the time to really understand design, if you're taking the time to, yeah, again, design, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's one of
Yeah.
the big ones.
Of course.
And then learning the 3D software. I mean, pretty much every either game company or film company, you're going to be using 3D software, and it's the same thing with ArchViz. If you're using 3D Studio Max or Maya or whatever you're using in it, that will transfer over. So some of those skills are transferable. The most important thing is, are you like, say, for instance, if you're in architecture, did you study, well, how are things designed in architecture? Because then that would transfer over very well for like an environmental artist.
Right. Yes,
How
definitely.
things like scale, how big are things, how things are placed, proportions, things like that matter a lot. And you get that from any type of what I would say design related art.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. So, how did you approach learning almost a new pathway, almost a new career? Because you already had like all this experience,
yeah.
and I can only imagine that it's not easy starting from scratch. Because you really like, like, I imagine that was a little bit of a taking a step back and just like, okay, I'm going to put on my learning shoes. So, what was it like? Where did you go?
Well,
For hard surface specifically.
yeah, no, for hard surface specifically, I would probably say that the big thing is who are your inspirations and looking at their artwork, and looking at what they are doing and how they are doing it, finding what their techniques are, finding and trying to replicate what their techniques are and what their vision is. And as soon as you can kind of replicate their vision, and kind of get close to what they're doing, then you can start branching off and trying to express yourself as an artist, because you can't just kind of start off and being like, oh, I'm going to be something. You kind of have to copy first, and then you transition on to be yourself. And mind you, I'm not saying copy people's artwork, but copy people's styles, people's techniques, people's methods. Yeah.
Absolutely. So who are your sources of inspiration, or were?
Well, like a lot of the 3D artists that are hard surface that are, I mean, any hard surface artist is going to say like Mike Hill, Mike Nash. I mean, those people are kind of God status for us. But you should be gathering inspiration from kind of everywhere that you can.
Right.
I mean, for me, another good 3D artist that's hard surface, Alex Seneschal. He's pretty amazing, and he has a lot of free content on YouTube that people can look at. That's very design heavy, and which is rare. It's rare to have people actually teaching design. Because I went through a design program at the university, and a lot of what was taught to me there was more experiential, like how do this makes how it makes you feel, a little bit of color theory, but really as far as proportions and what proportions are good, what proportions are bad, how are you shaping things so that the angles work properly, so you have a good flow with your designs. Things like that they're hard to teach, but I would recommend Alex's tutorials that are on YouTube. Like that is a gold mine. So
Wow.
yeah, I would probably say.
How long did it take you to reskill and become, let's call it, employable within, the new profile?
It took me about a year to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like full sabbatical.
But, yeah. No, I pretty much just stopped everything that I was doing. I just fully focused on art.
Cool.
And that was it. But it was a hard year. I probably put in a solid, I don't know, on average, 80 hours a week. On like hard weeks, it was like 100 plus. So late nights, a lot of neurosis, and a lot of like focus. And this has to happen. I have to make it work. And so it was just funny because I look back and I'm like, I didn't produce that much, but I put in so much. It's more about the time that they spend learning, and they spend kind of reskilling, and then hopefully they'll get portfolio pieces that they can show their employers that I can do this.
Can you give me a little bit of an overview what you were trying to achieve with your portfolio for hard surface in terms of like diversity or specific pieces? Like kind of I'm sure you already had like a vision of what will work, and apparently it worked. Like it worked for you. Like, yeah, it definitely did. So, and since that happened quite recently, I'm sure that some people can use that as an inspiration. So what was your idea of your portfolio that will work for you?
Well, I was very, I don't want to say calculated, but I was very purposeful about how I pushed things forward. I basically looked at artists that were working at places that I wanted to work at. And I saw what their portfolio was before they got the job at these places. And so I scoured through websites of the places that I was interested in, and a lot of these game companies will offer, kind of forums and different things where you can kind of start digging in and starting to know, well, okay, what are these people doing? So I looked at what they were doing, and then I tried to emulate that. And I said, well, if they got a job with this particular portfolio, if I get somewhere around that vicinity, then I should be at least somewhat hireable. Yeah, that was my goal.
I
So
love that. And how did you judge your own work? Did you use your own eyes? Did you have somebody helping you? Like,
yeah,
like
you
this is
can't
good, this is not
self-judge.
good. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, a community is huge. You have to find a community of artists that's gonna give you proper critique. Because you can like really good artists can self-critique and can look at their work and be like, well, how do I adjust this until it's just so. But I would say until you're kind of to that level, it's really important to have people that can help you to see your mistakes and to see kind of what you're doing wrong. And so for me, it was a Discord channel, Alex Senechal's Discord channel, actually, which has a bunch of 3D hard surface artists, and they are all on there constantly just trashing their work, which is perfect. And they're very, very constructive too. There's some very talented artists in there. Uh, Kane, for instance, is amazing at critiquing and like showing you, kind of where parts of your models, or more importantly, less your models, but more your design. Like what is it about the design that isn't good? And so having that is the best, because you can have all the time in the world, but if you're just sitting there practicing only what you're not progressing. Yeah.
I love asking also this question. What do you think, in your case specifically for hard surface, what puts apart a good artist and, or let's say, a great artist and a mediocre artist? What are the
Design. Yeah.
okay?
Has the person spent the time learning the fundamentals of design? Yeah. I mean, that makes a big difference because, I mean, obviously lighting and pretty textures, and like if you have a lot of competency over the software, you can get a lot from that. But really, if the fundamental structure of your design isn't sound and isn't strong, then all the garnish you put on top is just not going to make it. It's not going to make it sing better. I mean, it will, but at the end of the day, if it's better
Something will look
to,
odd, kind of at the same
well,
time.
yeah, I mean, like the eye is really good at finding things that we like, and luckily for us, the humans kind of speak a similar like language, a visual language, when it comes to what we find attractive and what we don't. Yeah.
How interesting. So can you give me an example of like fundamentally wrong design? So just, I don't know, let's imagine a weapon, or I don't know, like
Sure.
a vehicle. So what could be wrong with that?
Well, I would say the main thing I notice is how people are shaping up their proportions. So proportionality and kind of splitting things by primary, secondary, and tertiary shapes, so that you can quickly pick out kind of what's important and what isn't. Splitting things up not by 50-50 percents, but like actually taking the time to shape their proportions so that they're not exactly even. So things aren't looking. Well, it's important to be able to kind of place visual noise in areas so that people can kind of overlook certain things and rest the eye. But at the same time, when everything is special, kind of nothing is. So
Right.
when everything is like important to look at, then your eye just kind of goes everywhere. So it's having that hierarchy, kind of like in graphic design, where the graphic designers
Yeah.
have hierarchy in their designs. It's the same thing with any type of mechanical shape you're creating that's visually pleasing, anyways. Because the mechanical design can be very utilitarian, but if you're looking for, I mean, there's a lot of really utilitarian weapons out there that are not attractive and that don't end up in video games, that don't end up in movies because they're just not good looking. And that's fine, but like you're ideally trying to make something that's beautiful so that people can resonate with it.
Right.
And yeah, proportions is the most important thing, if you ask me.
Cool. 100%. Yeah, definitely agree. Definitely agree. So, and now when, just like taking one step further, like on the job, like to the extent you can speak about that, what is the, like what's the typical project for a hard surface artist, and how long it takes you to to complete it? Because I mean, like obviously personal
Mhm.
work is one thing, and for all the artists out there, for all the hard surface guys and girls, like it's portfolio building a portfolio can take you ages, but what is it like on the job?
I've seen two different types of people. Usually there is the 3D designer, which is more akin to what a concept artist does. And then there is the 3D artist. And mind you, I'm talking purely about the gaming industry. So,
Yep.
which is where I'm at. And so there, again, 3D design is one thing, and then 3D art is another thing. And so 3D production art is where I'm at. And so at any given time, I'm giving a concept from an artist, and that can be as simple as like a napkin sketch or an easy design, all the way to like, oh, here is a ZBrush model that I made. Take it and make it into something that can be put into the game. And so that can take, on average, I would say about three weeks for a very easy project to a month and a week. So around there for a more complex project. But mind you, I'm still fairly new at my job. So there's a lot of types of projects I haven't done.
Yeah, of course. But that's still pretty interesting, like I think you can't ever talk about averages, because everyone has very like specific type of like industry and the type of games and like the type of assets we're talking about. So yeah. But like in your specific case, do you do like the full pipeline, or like or do you finish at, I don't know, like let's say texturing?
I mean, it just depends on which project I'm working on.
Oh, okay,
I would
fine.
say.
So
Yeah,
it's
but
like it varies, right?
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like this is really really exciting. And do you think that you were you entirely prepared yourself for facing everything that you're like doing right now, or you still had to learn a lot on the go?
Oh, a lot of learning on the go. Yeah, this job's all learning. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, the thing with the portfolio is all you have to do is just show somebody that you can learn and that you can meet a certain standard. Yeah, but you're going to learn a lot on the job, because every single company has their own special way of doing things, and every single company has their own requirements. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's, thank you for saying that. I just know that this is true for every specific type of artist. Like it's just like so universally applicable. And personally, do you still work on any like personal projects, like in your free time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I honestly thought that I would get into the gaming industry, because I told you at the beginning that I was very focused on, well, I have my architecture job, and then also I have my my gaming thing that I kind of want to pursue, and that it's my side art thing. And so I thought, well, once I get into the gaming world, then I will kind of combine them, and then I will actually have a lot more time on the side to just spend doing my own thing rather than just focused on art all the time. But no, it turns out that now I do my hard surface art at the office, and then I get done and I'll go work out and whatever, and then I'll come back and do more hard surface art. So
Yeah, that sounds like very relaxing. Like,
yeah,
like do the job, come back home, do like personal, like
do the job.
do the job as well. That's like perfect. And what are you learning like as of like next big thing?
The next big thing, like personally or professionally?
uh Whatever. Yeah, I was like
I mean, I would
I
just
think,
say,
yeah, I thought more personally, but like personally, as of like for you it's the same anyway, come on.
yeah. Well, I
Stop pulling
mean,
my leg.
I'm pushing really hard on ZBrush right now. That's going to be my thing. Is uh, as far as software and kind of
Yeah.
where I'm pushing. Uh, there's an artist in our Discord that's particularly talented with ZBrush, and he did a good job at convincing me that it's a better tool to use than some of the CAD software that we use for hard surface. And yeah, so the ZBrush allows you for some really complex and interesting shapes that, I mean, they can be made with polygonal software like Blender or with CAD software like Fusion, but those two softwares require you to kind of know what you're trying to build before you build it, whereas ZBrush is a little more free, and you can kind of explore and be a little more, I don't know, experimental with the shapes that you're creating. And so that's kind of what I'm pushing, is to try to get a good bit of mastery on that so that I can keep up.
Wow. Right. Yeah. And so just to make sure that we're on the same page, what's your favorite like tool for hard surface currently? I mean, what's like the main tool
Uh,
you use? I don't know if you have
Blender,
one. Okay.
Blender is the best. Yeah, I mean, it has freed us from Autodesk's tyranny, but
Yes.
Autodesk is still pretty great. You know, I mean, when I say that, I mean that they do have some pieces of software that they've acquired, which are really good. I mean, I love Fusion 360. I think it's a great piece of software to learn because yeah, it really enhances how you're building things, because it wants to create things as if they are going to be built, and that helps to ground the designs a lot. So Fusion's a good place to start. Blender, I think, is essential, and obviously ZBrush, I think is probably the next thing. People have been doing hard surface with ZBrush for a long time, but I really do feel that that it's kicking up. Like
How
I think it's going
cool.
to keep going and become even more essential,
Interesting.
especially in design. Yeah.
Yeah. No, very interesting because in our community we've got like a ton of ZBrush artists, and yeah, I'm really curious to see what ZBrush can do for hard surface as well. I mean, like I know that it can do a lot of things, but yeah, I'll keep watching.
Yeah. Well, it's mostly seen as character art, right?
Exactly. It is character art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, like I think it's a little bit of a new kind of a, new avatar almost for ZBrush, that it also can do like something interesting for hard surface.
I hope so. I
Well,
mean, all the
yeah,
guys at the
exactly.
office use
I'm
it.
curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm gonna go and explore. All right,
Fair
Christian.
enough.
Yeah, we've got a little tradition here in the podcast. Before I let you go, we've
Sure.
got a short questionnaire, and it's 10 questions with where you're allowed to answer with like one sentence, like a few words, I would say, a few words.
Okay.
Ready?
Rapid fire. Ready to go.
Boom. What's your number one tip for combating distractions when working from home?
Leave your phone outside. Outside your, yeah.
Okay,
Don't look at your
fine.
phone.
All right, great. What's your favorite tradition or holiday?
Cinco de Mayo.
Really? Amazing. Amazing. What do you do? That's not part of the question. I'm just like, I'm really curious.
For Cinco de Mayo, we're hoping to start doing like a big dinner for our friends. That's gonna be our big thing. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. What's your favorite way to get in some exercise?
I like salsa dancing.
Oh my God, this is awesome. What's your most used emoji?
Eggplant emoji.
Which one?
Eggplant.
Ah,
It's
eggplant. Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Shoot, yes.
It's
That's
very
yeah.
trolly. Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah,
get
yeah. It's just yeah, but pretty relevant. Yeah, I should say. All right.
it.
Source of inspiration.
um, all your friends should be your inspiration. Yeah, the people
Amazing.
you surround yourself with.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh man, that's a really hard question.
I know it's not
Uh,
getting easier. The
I would say
eggplant was just a warm up.
yeah, you can do it. You can do it, I
Boom.
think, was the big one. Yeah.
Awesome. How do you celebrate little victories?
Celebrate little victories with food, with good friends, good food.
Great.
Always dinners.
Yes. If you could see one movie again for the first time, which
Yeah.
one would that be?
Forrest Gump.
Mm. And what's your backup career?
Uh, Fighter pilot.
Really?
Yes.
Did you do anything about it?
No,
Okay, but that sounds like a great backup.
it
Knowing
might
that
be hard for me to get. Yes,
no,
I didn't
no,
realize that.
no. I mean, after we've just spoken about one career transition. Like, I wouldn't imagine that that's another like really hard one. So totally
Sure.
know how to do that. All right. Well, that's it. Perfect. Thank you so much. We're done. And Christian, thank you for sharing the story. I absolutely love the story. Like, I think it's
Yeah, no, that's
so
no
really
problem.
inspiring that that it just like takes a lot of effort, but you can do it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
really. Uh,
everyone out there, yeah, they can do it.
Definitely. And yeah, I'll be keep watching that portfolio, and hopefully ZBrush pieces will end up there as well, so that we could all check it out.
I'm excited.
Awesome. We're
Thank you,
gonna,
Maria.
yeah, no problem. And we're gonna put a link to the show notes if you guys are listening to this in audio format, and if you're watching this in video format, there is a link to Christian's social so that everybody could check him out and see what he's up to. Thanks again, Christian, and would love to chat again in some time to see where you are.
Will do. Thanks,
All
Maria.
right. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Art Heroes Podcast. Check out www.artheroes.co for show notes, more interviews, and free tools made for you by our team of mentors. Tune in next week for more inspiration, and keep up the great work, hero.